Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Rich Perez welcoming you back into another weekly dose of your rundown. Joining with me, as always, my brother from another, my co-host all the way from the O, Kayson Davis. How you doing, Kay?
I'm doing good. How you doing? It's been a few weeks, I think.
It's been a few weeks. And a lot has happened. Thank y'all for the applause. No more applause, please. So, yeah, it has been a little bit. Last time we checked in with y'all, I think we were just getting ready to go into the NBA trade deadline, which has gone and passed. A lot of big things happened. But before we get into the repercussions, or at least what has gone on since the trade deadline, we'll start off with a little bit of NFL free agency, with this being day one of the official NFL free agency. Something that has been keeping everybody up at night, not just Jets fans, but all NFL fans alike. The Aaron Rodgers to the New York Jets saga continues. Earlier today, Trey Wingo tweeted out that he had heard that a deal is imminent. Aaron Rodgers to the New York Jets is all but done. And then time passed and we didn't hear anything about it. So sounds to me like Rodgers is going to be a Jet. When does that officially happen? I don't know. I've been hearing a lot of people talk about, a lot of Jets fans, not all, but a lot of Jets fans talk about how they would rather not have him, just because I think people in New York are a little afraid of getting an NFL version of what they got with the Brooklyn Nets the last 2 years. I'm here to tell you, if you're a New York Jets fan, you're getting one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. You are getting a guy who's still at the top of his game, which you have never in the history of your organization ever had. Joe Namath, he's a Hall of Famer, no doubt. He was never one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He's not one of the greatest quarterbacks in the history of the NFL. You have literally never had a quarterback of this magnitude. And what is the one thing that the Jets are missing? They were able to have a winning season without a quarterback. You went from Zach Wilson to Mike White to Joe Flacco to Zach Wilson back to Mike White, and it kept you out of the playoffs. You have all these amazing weapons: Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, so on and so forth, and not a guy to really conduct the orchestra, let's say. You're getting that in Aaron Rodgers. And for Aaron Rodgers, look what he's been able to do in his career without throwing to a first-round wide receiver. Now he's going to get the chance to do that with a Garrett Wilson. He's going to get the chance to hand the ball off to Breece Hall. And, you know, that you get Aaron Rodgers in there, we are talking Super Bowl, possibly Super Bowl, something that you have not seen in decades. My dad was a little kid the last time the Jets won the Super Bowl, and I was in high school the last time they even almost sniffed one. Very far removed from high school now. So if you're a Jets fan, you should welcome this, regardless of what comes with it, regardless of what Aaron Rodgers says in press conferences and what he does off the field. Who cares? Because at the end of the day, you're going to get one of the best quarterbacks in the league in the history of this game, which is something that you've never had, and a chance to compete for a Lombardi trophy.
Right. I don't know why Jets fans would be worried about kind of the Brooklyn Nets example thing, because to be honest, the team has kind of been that way without stars. If you look at like their past history, things haven't been that great for them, even without a great player. So I think you try to bring him in there to change those type of things. I think you get him, like you were saying, they were going through quarterbacks last year, which is kind of alluded to some of their problems that they were having. So you bring in one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time to help with those weapons and someone you can just rely on at that position. So I think that only gets you in the right direction, not kind of more in the wrong direction. So it's like stacking stars. And I think it's different because the Nets try to put a whole bunch of pieces together. I think the Jets have pieces that have been there for a few years now. So it's like you're kind of just adding to what you already have instead of trying to throw different pieces that you don't know already together. So like you said, they kind of just needed a quarterback, so you kind of plug and play him there. So I think they should just, kind of to what you were just saying, they should be happy that they're getting a quarterback and getting someone at the top of his game right now. And I think no matter what, I think like any team, a lot of teams You get Aaron Rodgers and you don't question it. You don't you don't second guess it. You get that guy, you get that bad man, and you kind of just let the rest of it figure itself out, or let him get on the field and figure it out. Because we've seen him do that a couple times. So it's interesting. Obviously we knew his time with the Packers was kind of coming to the end. Some of us thought it'd be over last year. So it's just to me, why the Jets? Obviously, like you talked about the pieces and stuff that they had, but like I was saying, like it's kind of seems like it's been dysfunction over there for a few years now. So it's kind of like why would he pick the Jets at all the places maybe he can go to? But hey, it's New York. People love New York, so you can't blame him too much.
Yeah, and I mean, aside from that, we know that there's some coaches over there that he's familiar with. But look, I could understand why some people are hands offish with this. You know, you had Brett Favre come from Green Bay to the Jets. It was the last time you had a top 10 offense in the league. Obviously, that didn't end the way that you wanted it to. Aaron Rodgers coming off two back-to-back MVPs. And the end of the day, and again, like I said, he doesn't have the weapons in Green Bay, albeit he still had good weapons, but he doesn't have the weapons in Green Bay that he's going to have with the New York Jets. And then the other thing I think, I could kind of understand why some people would be standoffish with this. You're asking the prom queen to go to prom with you. You know, you were thinking, all right, we got this thing in Mike White. It's risk free. If he fails, well, he wasn't supposed to be successful anyway. And that kind of went exactly how we thought it was going to go. He's not even on the table anymore anyway. Just signed a 2-year deal to go back to Miami, which is where he's from. And, you know, you're scared that this thing is going to just fall flat on its face, basically, that he's going to fail once he gets to New York. And I say, what are your other options right now? You either have to give 2 first-round picks to the Baltimore Ravens for Lamar Jackson, which I don't think the Jets want to do, or you could give up probably 1 first-round pick and a couple picks in the later rounds to get Aaron Rodgers, who, like I said, is coming off 2 back-to-back MVPs. It's a no-brainer to me. Can understand, again, why it's frustrating that it's being dragged out. You just kind of want the news to come out already. It seems like it's imminent. We're going to have to wait, unfortunately. But if at the end of the day, if you are a New York Jets fan, supporter, you should be loving this and just foaming at the mouth for the season to begin.
Yeah, definitely. That's why even like with the Nets situation you brought up, 10 times out of 10, even if you know what the outcome is, you take that KD, you take KD come in there just for what it could be. So this could turn into a complete disaster, but at the end of the day, 10 times out of 10, if Aaron Rodgers wants to come to your team, you take that and you figure it out from there. So to me, it's kind of a no-brainer, especially with the way your franchise has been going. Let's say if you're, I don't know, I don't even know what, I would say the Patriots, but since Tom Brady left, it hasn't been like the greatest. Not unless you're like a established team where it's like, you're just, say if you were the Warriors, so we put it in NBA terms, then you maybe question like, okay, bringing in something because you already have what you got rolling, so you don't have to like overdo it sometimes. But for a team that hasn't got it rolling and they're trying to figure it out, and it's been kind of bad for a few years now, it's like I said, if it's going to crash and burn, it's probably going to crash and burn whether he's there or not. So I'd rather take my chances with him than kind of let it crash and burn like it's been doing the last couple of years anyway.
Yeah, I fully agree with you, man. We'll definitely wait to see how things go. But it definitely seems like it is imminent as far as it happening or not. Like, it doesn't seem like there's any. They don't even have a bidding war for him. You know, Oakland. I keep calling them Oakland. Las Vegas just went and signed Jimmy Garoppolo. You know, 49ers got their guys. Most quarterback needy teams got who they wanted already. Seems like Tampa's all in on Baker Mayfield for whatever reason. So, you know, like I said, it seems imminent. We'll see what happens in the next hours, days, who knows, but seems like it's imminent. And the Jets know that it's coming, which is why they didn't go after guys like Carr, Garoppolo to begin with. On the other side of the building, we have the New York Giants, who today made their big splash. They signed linebacker Bobby Okereke to 4 years, $40 million deal with $22 million guaranteed. The Giants' strength on defense last year was that offensive line, albeit with some holes. You're able to cover up some of those holes with a linebacker. of him. You got some depth with Tampa Bay's players coming in as well. I like this move a lot. I like this move a lot. I think it's gonna bolster what the Giants are doing on defense. You got to keep the whole staff back with the coaching hires not going either of those guys' ways. And Okereke seems like he's somebody that fits into what Wink Martindale wants to do. And then you're pairing him up with Leonard Williams, unless he decides not to stay. Young guys in Aziz Olajari, Kayvon Thibodeau, Dexter Lawrence, and just seems like this team is making the right moves. In years past, the Giants would have probably tried to go all in on free agents without thinking of any types of repercussions that could come in the future or whatnot. Maybe even if if it wasn't the right fit for the team, but it was a sexy name. And they're not doing that these days. They kind of got clear heads to prevail on this thing with GM Joe Shane taking the reins over there.
Yeah, definitely. You're trying to build on what you did last year. So from here, like we said, it was kind of it started off as a just see what you got type of season, and it maybe still what it was. So now you know what you got, and you know what you need to add to it. I think they've been trying to look to fill that linebacker position. They had a couple people in there last year, Tate Crowder, things like that. So I think that's something that they were looking for, and seems like they found their guy. So like I said, it's just building on what you had last year and kind of what you worked towards last year and seeing where you can take it and plug and play now type of thing. So I think, like I said, they were looking for a linebacker. They tried different ones throughout last season, so good pickup for them.
Yeah, 100%. On the other side of things, Daniel Jones, 4 years, $160 million. A lot of rumors going on. That even what was a true rumor, from what I've heard, was that his initial negotiations, he asked for $48 million a year. Now, when I heard that, I don't know about you, when I heard that, I said, get this guy out of here right now. You threw 15 touchdowns last year. That's not a $48 million quarterback, even with the cap going up. I do not care. They were able to kind of work things out literally in the last stretch right before the deadline for tags to start going out. Daniel Jones signs for $160 million, 4 years. It is $40 million a year with a 2-year, $82 million guaranteed. Now, for people who are not Daniel Jones fans and whatnot, I have to say this to you, because I myself have not completely bought into Daniel Jones as well. I'm not mad at this deal. You have a 2-year out. This is literally, you got your money, come show me what it's about. You want to get paid like one of the big boy quarterbacks, now it's time for you to play like one. You've got the weapons. Obviously, we still need to bolster up what's going on with wide receiver. But Saquon Barkley is here to stay for the next year. He got franchise tagged. They said that they're going to try and work on a deal to get him off the franchise tag before the season starts. We'll see. The Giants did go to Odell Beckham Jr.'s workout in Arizona. From what I'm told, that is something that both parties would like to get done. Just comes down to can the Giants or are the Giants willing to meet the asking price of Odell Beckham? So it's another wait and see thing. But again, Daniel Jones is here. If things don't work after the 2 years, move on. Move on. It's lesser of a cut as far as the cap hit goes. And you can either go look for a free agent quarterback or you can go straight to the draft. Because now we're talking about draft capital here.
Right, definitely. Well, I guess when you see the number just off the top, when I see the number 160, seems like a lot for him. But when you put it in the way you just put it, I think not that bad of a deal. Like you said, he's gonna have to go out and show us maybe a little more because he showed us a lot this year under Brian Dable. So you keep him, you see maybe what can go on next year, see if he builds off next year, and then like you're saying, a lot of people saying that he didn't have the weapons this year. So Sterling Shepard has been re-signed, so he'll be back, hopefully healthy. Wendell Robinson, hopefully he can get healthy and stay healthy this year. Like you said, Saquon's back. We'll see what happens with Odell Beckham Jr. Did Slayton re-sign yet? Or
No, Slayton's still a free agent.
So we'll see what happens with Slayton. So and then we'll see what else they can kind of pick up on. So like you said, this is a year where you have your money. Seems like you're gonna have the weapons. Now it's kind of time to put up or shut up, and then see where it takes us from there. Like you said, if anything, you you go in the draft and see what's out there, or like I said, it's New York. People want to come here. I think Brian Dable gives himself a little more time to maybe see who's on the market next year and see who else you can grab. Obviously, it looks like Aaron Rodgers wasn't going to work out, so it's like let's see who becomes unhappy next year. And so just in case the season doesn't work out, then it's like there may be a better or more options available to you in a year or so. So we solidified for right now, but obviously nothing is kind of guaranteed.
I think that these guys liked what they saw from him last year. I feel like they can build on it. I mean, I have no reason not to trust this regime. I haven't seen anything from Joe Shane as far as front office moves goes that I didn't dislike. He is continuing to fix the cap situation that he was dealt when he got the job. Just fixing Dave Gettleman's mess. And then, obviously, the season last year speaks for itself when it comes to Brian Dable. This guy transformed a top 5 draft pick team into a playoff team with a playoff win. Even if it doesn't work out with Jones, I don't see these guys going anywhere, and I have every reason to trust them and what they're doing. And then on top of that, you're going to get a full camp in with these guys now. You got a whole season in, and Mike Kafka's back. You get to work with Mike Kafka again, and then see how you can improve from there. Your biggest weapon, Saquon Barkley's back for another season. So the schedule this year is going to be a bit tougher than it was last year. But again, like we both said, it's time to put up or shut up. You got your money. It seems like it's a good deal for both parties. Daniel Jones gets paid what he was looking for. He said he wanted 40 minimum a year. He got that. A lot of incentives based in this deal as well. For the Giants, if it doesn't work out, it's a 2-year out at the end of the day.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, I think it's we trust those guys, and we seen what they were able to do. It's more of a Daniel Jones thing, but like you said, they secured themselves on like 2-year out, and then you can kind of go from there. So, like I always say, you're only as good as your options. So they solidify what they think is the best option now, but I don't think this is like one of those guaranteed long term type of thing. It's you have another year or so to show us what you got. You got your money. We don't want to hear anything. Let's like you said, put up or shut up.
Right on, right on. Let's go ahead and move into hoops now, man. A lot has gone on. I think the biggest thing that we both got to talk about involves both LA teams. So the Los Angeles Lakers made a bunch of trades, brought themselves back D'Lo, second stint with the Los Angeles Lakers, as well as Jared Vanderbilt and Malik Beasley. And let me tell you that this has worked out in Los Angeles' favor. They look like a completely different team. To me, this is a scary out, whether they make the play-in or the playoffs. I don't think anybody's going to want to face this team, especially with LeBron coming back from injury. Just saw D'Lo play last night, or was that 2 nights ago, with his coming back from his ankle injury, and he looked like he hadn't missed a step. So, this Lakers team is just exciting. My only worry about this Lakers team is Anthony Davis, and can he play like a superstar, like the superstar that we know he is, because we have not seen that from him. They just lost to the Knicks last night. The big reason why they lost to the Knicks was because Anthony Davis did not play up to his potential.
Yeah, definitely. I think they've had the number one defense with all these trades, and that's something that's been an issue for them, obviously. We don't know when LeBron's going to come back, but that's been their thing for the last few years. It's all been on the back of AD. Even if you look at the beginning of this year, when he was playing well, they were on a run. He was playing at an all-star MVP level, and they were on a run, but then he gets hurt. And then now he's trying to work his way back. So I think everything with the Lakers from now, especially with Bron being up there in age, is can AD hold down the fort for them. And they got a little younger, a little more athletic. They got better defensively. So they got everything they kind of need. They got better shooting. So they got everything they need. AD just needs to be able to come and kind of do his part. And then obviously Bron getting healthy. But I think it's been the story since he's been there. Can AD stay healthy, and can he play at that high level to carry this team, because LeBron's up there in age. But I think this is, I guess maybe since they won it in the bubble that year, this is probably the best team that they've had surrounded him, where it's just defense and shooting, so he can kind of just be that star.
Lakers got a decision to make after this season's over, too. Do you re-sign D'Angelo Russell or do you go after Kyrie Irving in free agency? I'm with that. It's a foregone conclusion that Kyrie is not staying in Dallas. So far, it hasn't even worked out for Dallas. They have not had the greatest record, even with Luka and Kyrie playing together. Me and you both said we didn't expect this to work out as far as championship goes. I actually believe that they're going to get knocked out in the first round. I don't know if you agree with that, but I think that this all just leads to Kyrie looking for a new destination to call home once this season's over. Do you kind of mess with what's going on with the Lakers by moving on from D'Lo to bring Kyrie in, or do you just let this play out as is?
That's a good question. That's a tough decision that they're gonna have to make. To the Kyrie front, like we were saying, it's a win-win for Dallas if he leaves. Now you have max cap space to go after someone else. You think maybe you kind of ask Luca, who do you want next to you, and try to see who you can go after. But yeah, I don't know because it's got also going to be a money thing. You have the right, you have D'Angelo Russell's bird rights to exceed the cap, so you can give him a little more money than you might not be able to give Kyrie. And Kyrie, you don't know if Kyrie is going to want to take a little less money. So I think it's probably going to come down to a money thing, and they're going to have to look at it. Obviously, I think if you can get Kyrie, you get Kyrie, and there's that. But I don't know if they'll have the money to do it. I think they have enough to give him a nice amount, but probably not what he's looking for, and that's probably going to be the issue. Maybe you can do a D'Lo sign and trade, maybe with Kyrie. Maybe that works things out. I think if you can get Kyrie, you get Kyrie, but I don't know if the money will work out. So I think with that case, since you have D'Angelo Russell's bird rights, you kind of just keep D'Lo.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning that way too. Doesn't seem like you can keep both of those guys, which ironically I thought the Nets should have did that when they first acquired KD and Kyrie, but they opted to trade him to Golden State in a sign and trade. Um, I don't know. Some things you just can't mess with, and I like Kyrie as a player. I think he's phenomenal. He's a future first ballot Hall of Famer. He's an NBA champion. He's hit one of the biggest shots in NBA Finals history. He's a magician. He's fun to watch. And when he's on, he's on. You can win with him. I do believe that. But I think that I just think that you can't mess with what's going on, especially with the way the Lakers last couple seasons have gone on. Like they won a championship and then moved on from a bunch of guys and we're struggling to make the playoffs after that. Now it's like you finally got a good team that's hot again. Do you really want to mess with this?
Right, and we'll see how it plays out for them the rest of the season. See if they get into the play-in, see if they get into the playoffs, and see how well that they play. Because if you remember last year, D'Lo didn't play too well in that playoff series with Minnesota. So we'll see how the rest of the season goes before you kind of make any final decisions. Because if you get into the playoffs and maybe D'Lo doesn't play as well again, then maybe you consider Kyrie a little harder.
You know what though? I like D'Lo with the Lakers more than I liked him in Minnesota. D'Lo was kind of on the back burner in Minnesota with the options that they had offensively, and he's not a third or fourth fiddle with the Lakers. I mean, he is kind of a third fiddle, but they're using him a lot more than Minnesota was using him.
I see your point. In Minnesota, he was kind of looked at more to be like a facilitating point guard. I think LA will let him, as you can see so far, let him score a little more. But we'll see when Ron comes back. But I think LA is giving him the ball more to be like, hey, go score. I think Minnesota was kind of like set everybody up and kind of be more of a point guard.
Yeah, for D'Lo, and we're gonna get into this next guy in a little bit, but for D'Lo, he is for the Lakers what the hope Westbrook was gonna be, and he's doing it more efficiently with his shooting. Like I still think Westbrook is a better floor general than D'Lo is, but scoring wise, especially from New York, he gives you a lot more than Russ did. So Lakers kind of made out well on this one, and we'll definitely see how things go once they get Braun back.
Yeah, definitely. And they got better defensively than because when you traded for Westbrook, you lost a lot of defense. Obviously, he comes in, he brings effort, but he's never been like a top defender in the league. So I think with Vanderbilt, I've seen a couple of their games. He's made a big impact. You get Malik Beasley, he's young, plays defense, spreads the floor. So I think it's more than just D'Lo, but yeah, definitely.
Yeah, on the other side of things in the in the LA realm of basketball. The LA Clippers made some huge noise at the trade deadline. They kind of looked at what Phoenix was doing, acquiring KD, said, we're not all the way there yet. And they made huge buzz with how they were able to bring guys in. So they brought in Bones Highland, Mason Plumlee, and Eric Gordon on top of what they already had. They moved on from John Wall and Reggie Jackson. And then a couple days after the trade deadline was over, they agreed to terms with Russell Westbrook after he was bought out by the Utah Jazz. So the Clippers started off on a little skid. It was a 5-game losing streak, but they've kind of got back to where they need to be. Kawhi and Paul George have looked great. I thought Russ has played very good basketball, considering he's just kind of stepped into a new situation right now. I think he should be back with the Clippers. He's everything that the Clippers have needed the last 2 years as far as a point guard goes. The offenses look better with him. You just retweeted something today about how the offensive efficiency has been when he's on the floor versus when he's off the floor. And I mean, to me, it's hard to say this now because they played a lot better than they were when they originally got Russ. But to me, the Clippers' problem was they got too many bodies. You have too many options that you need to go to during a game. And Ty Lue's got some tough decisions that he's gonna have to make going down the stretch, especially in the playoffs when you got to kind of shrink that rotation up as far as who plays and who doesn't.
Yeah, definitely. I think if you look at the first couple of games, it was kind of more putting those pieces together. You got a whole bunch of new pieces. You're trying to figure it out. I've seen a lot of people try to blame those losses on Russ, but he didn't even play the fourth quarter of the Denver game. I think the Warriors game, they were down like 3 before he went to the bench in the third quarter, and then they were down 20. So a lot of it really didn't have to do with Russ. I think it's just getting all these new pieces. And I seen Paul George's podcast earlier I was listening to, and he was saying the same thing. It's kind of getting all those pieces together, and they were losing close games besides obviously that Warriors one. And he said that's good for them to play in these close games now, so they can kind of figure it out come playoff time. So I think you get all those new pieces in. Like you said, Ty Lue kind of has to figure those lineups out. Who's going to play when. You still have Terrence Mann. You got Bones Highland coming in. You got Westbrook. So Eric Gordon.
Yeah, they got a ton of just at guard alone.
He's been putting Gordon in a lot towards the end of the game for defensive purposes and things like that, and ability to stretch the floor. So he has a lot of options to play with, especially now at the guard. So Kawhi looks like he's back playing at an all-star level. Looks like all those injuries that were nagging him earlier are kind of gone, and he's gearing up for the playoffs. So I think they won 3 straight now after dropping 5 straight. So they're in a better situation now, figuring it out. And that's what these last 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks are for. Is for you guys to start tightening your lineups and figure out what's going to work come playoff time and things like that. So Ty Lue, obviously a championship coach. We'll see kind of how it goes, but obviously it starts with those two at the top with PG and Kawhi, and they're back playing and playing consistently. And Kawhi's, when I've seen him, all the games I've seen, he's looking like the old Kawhi. So that's a good start there. And then I'll leave the rest to Ty Lue to kind of figure it out. But number one is getting those two on the court. And then, like you said, if anything, you have too many bodies. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be some unhappy guys once the playoffs kind of roll around because, like I said, you can't keep these tight. And I think Ty Lue knows that. A lot of people are kind of going at his neck for the rotations and decision-makings that he's done since the trade deadline. I kind of say you need to push back on that and let a guy who just gained a bunch of players experiment with what different lineups can do. Obviously, this is a tough time to experiment when we're down the stretch, especially with how tight the West is. But you gotta kind of give him that grace period to do that. Seems like he's kind of figured out what it is that he wants to do with these lineups because he's been a little more consistent as of late. But there's going to be some unhappy guys at the bench. I think, Lawrence Frank and those guys have done a tremendous job of just putting this team together. And I'll tell you what, man, from what I've seen from the Clippers, and you especially know this, I have not been a big Paul George believer over the years. But from what I have seen from these Clippers, I might pick them to make a run. I could see them winning a championship. Jalen, who's a friend of the show, I tweeted out it was actually during the Clippers losing streak. Kawhi is still a top 5 player in this game, and a lot of y'all have forgot about it. And he came at me saying that basically that, what I'm saying is inaccurate. The tape don't lie. The numbers don't lie. He's one of the best two-way players in the game. Paul George actually put out his top 5 two-way players of all time. I don't know how he didn't put Kawhi in there. I respect the list that he came up with, but I don't know how he didn't put Kawhi in there. If you got Kawhi leading this thing, I don't know, man. I've seen Kawhi. I still to this day believe if Kawhi didn't get hurt in that Warriors Western Conference Finals when he was with the Spurs would have gave the Warriors a run for their money. I definitely look at Kawhi like a game changer, and this Clippers team has as long as injury is not a factor in this postseason, everybody should look out for this Clippers team.
Yeah, definitely. I think PG didn't add Kawhi because he had to put himself. And even when I seen it, I was like, all right, well, you get a pass because you can't blame nobody for putting themselves. But obviously that was Kawhi's spot. But that's another story for another day. Yeah, obviously Kawhi's healthy, two-way player, offense, defense, superstar. We seen what he was able to do with the Spurs. We seen what he did with the Raptors. As long as he's healthy, I think playoff time, he can do that. Like you said, they have the bodies. They have the players. They have everything they need. So they just need a healthy Kawhi because you know what he's going to give you. So, I think if he's healthy, you got to watch out for them. And then you still have PG healthy. So you have those two-way players who, when they first got together, we looked and said they can give a lot of people problems. That's before we knew that they had all these weapons too. So, like, they can give these people problems. It's all just been a health thing for them. So they can stay healthy, then I think everyone should watch out for them because they can really knock anybody off. You think about the Suns, they have someone to guard Book. They have someone to guard KD. The Nuggets have given them problems recently, but
nobody's a believer in the Nuggets, though. Like, I'm still not a believer in the Nuggets. I just haven't been.
And then Memphis, you have someone for Ja, someone for Jaren Jackson. So they have the defense and the offense to keep up with anybody. Like I said, it's just always been health with them.
Yeah, big time. But I'm expecting big things from them, man. Moving on. A team that has not done so hot since the trade deadline, who I think people at least in Dallas thought would be different. The Dallas Mavericks have not had the greatest fortunes since acquiring Kyrie Irving. To me, it's not like I'm not here to tell you Kyrie Irving's a cancer because I don't think Kyrie Irving's a cancer, and I hate when people throw those labels on people. I just don't think that it works. Like I don't think that Luka Doncic works with Kyrie. You talk about two ball dominant guys. Kyrie's still getting his numbers because that's what Kyrie does, but it's just not a formula for success. They're not even really, from what I've been watching, they're not even really replicating what Houston was doing back when they had Chris Paul and Harden or Harden and Westbrook. It's just doesn't seem like great basketball. You gave up a lot to even bring Kyrie over there. You gave up defense for the sake of getting Kyrie over there as a running mate for Luka. So, I mean, this thing is just going to play out how it's going to play out. Me personally, I think that they go out. Well, I got to look at the matchups again, but I believe that they'll probably go out in the first round, depending on the matchup, maybe second.
Sorry. I totally agree with you. Like you said, they gave up a lot of defense to get Kyrie over there, and that's obviously a problem with them. But I think right now they just haven't been able to get on the court enough. I think kind of back to the Clippers' point, if those guys need to get on the court, play some close games, figure some things out, so come playoff time, they're ready to hit the ground rolling. They're both out tonight for tonight's game that's going on right now. Kyrie has played a lot of games without Luka. Luka's played a couple games without Kyrie. So I think their problem is going to be they have to get on the floor together and then kind of be able to have that time to figure things out. I don't think it's going to be like, hey, obviously they're both great offensive talents, but it's not going to be like, hey, playoff time is here. Let's just roll the ball out and figure it out. So I think if they can get healthy and have the time to kind of figure things out together, they have a chance because they're both two great offensive talents. We've seen they took the Suns down, not down, but they took them down the stretch and was able to win that game when it took a big KD shot at the end of the game for them to win that. So just when you have that offense, it's like the same thing we're saying with KD and Kyrie. When you have that type of offensive firepower, you can kind of knock anybody off. It takes one of them to get super hot for a 2 week stretch to knock somebody off, and then the other one to just play at their normal pace. So, but I just think they're gonna need the time to get healthy and be on the floor together and learn and fail and do all that time and have enough time to figure that out come playoff time.
Appreciate you, Shuffle Beats. You already know we up. I think we up like what's look at that 7-1 right now. Let's get it.
What's the guy that plays for the Mets that's on Puerto Rico?
Lindor.
Yeah, he was actually here the other day. I met him.
Oh, for real? Love
Yeah, he did
Lindor.
it.
Hate the team he plays for.
He did a shoot with Cole the other day. You can probably see it on the Magic channel. He did like a little crossover with those two. So I actually met him the other day. So shout out to him.
Oh, that's fire. You gonna get those shoes?
I didn't know about any shoes. I'm gonna be honest.
It's New Balance. It's New Balance. I was messing with you.
Cool guy though.
No.
Super cool guy though. So shout out to him.
Shuffle Beats also says I think they may figure it out sooner. Other big duos we've seen lately, a bit less ego in the scenario. I don't think it comes down to ego. I really don't think that this thing is an ego thing. I just don't think. Sometimes you get puzzle pieces that just don't work. I just don't see it. I haven't seen I've seen good basketball from the two, not necessarily complementary to each other. And I don't know. I'm just not a fan. I'm just not a fan. Can they sway me? Sure. Like I just said a little while ago, I'm kind of digging Paul George a lot more than I used to these days. But right now, I'm just not feeling it. I don't know.
Timing is everything. If they have the firepower to like I was just saying, to knock anybody off. They just got to be healthy and get a couple games under their belt to kind of figure it out. Because it's gonna be tough for them to start figuring it out come playoff time. They're going to need to be tested a couple times during the stretch to figure it out. Even if you look at their game, I think they played Minnesota. Kyrie was looking at Luka. Luka was looking at Kyrie. They didn't know who was going to take the last shot. They didn't even get a shot off. So it's those type of things that you work out that you need to be ready for come playoff time.
Biggest thing I want to talk about now before we get to our last topics and get out of here. KD to Phoenix, most of us believe that that's a front runner to come out the West, deservedly so. This is kind of Chris Paul's last chance at a championship when you got guys like Devin Booker and KD as weapons for your use as a floor general. Whoever was mopping the courts for Phoenix must have been fired. KD suffers an ankle injury during warm-ups because he slips on the court. Now he's out for I think another 2 weeks, which kind of delays a lot of chemistry building and things like that. I mean, it's still Kevin Durant at the end of the day, and Phoenix has been all right without him. But if this team is going to win a championship, it's going to have to be with KD being KD on this team. So I guess what are the concerns that we should be having moving forward with Phoenix after that latest injury?
This is starting to sound like a broken record now, but it's the same thing. The midseason trades like that, you got to get the team on the floor to be able to play together. The guys have to have that time to kind of figure things out. I think if you look at the Dallas game, obviously KD seems like he should probably be the one taking the last shot, and he was able to step up and make it. But if you look at Devin Booker's numbers since like in the games with KD, Devin Booker's going from having maybe the team's first best defender on him to the team's second best defender on him. And we obviously know what KD can do. He can kind of fit in anywhere. You can kind of plug and play him anywhere. So it's like it may come down to Devin Booker a little more for the fact that teams are going to let him play a little more maybe. They're not going to come off of KD. Chris Paul's obviously Chris Paul. And he's getting the team's second best defender. So if obviously Devin Booker's going to play at that level, it's just going to, like I said, take time for them to get on the floor and kind of figure those things out. Who really gets the last shot? Like, obviously, like I said, it should maybe be KD, but I think there's some cases where maybe it is Devin Booker. So it's the same thing with all these other teams that made trades at the trade deadline or picked up people at the trade deadline. You got to get these guys on the floor to play together so you can figure these things out. Because come playoff time, teams have more time to scheme for you, it's a 2 week stretch. Like, yeah, you can kind of just roll the ball out and play. But we've seen the last couple of years how sometimes it doesn't work out. You think about that with the Clippers and their load management thing. You think about that with KD and Kyrie and those guys not being able to play together the whole time. So we've seen over the last couple of years that it hasn't worked out. Those people and those teams need time to kind of figure everything out.
Yeah, most def. We got less than 20 games left to play now, right?
Uh, Probably we got like two weeks. Probably is less than 20 games.
Yeah. So a lot of teams got to get their things in order. I like a couple teams out of the West right now. We said the Clippers. I still think Phoenix is in the mix with KD. Will be fine. Obviously, you got to talk about the Nuggets, even whether or not we are big believers or not. Oh, that sucks. Show must go on though. Um, so there's that, and the East. To me, the East is Milwaukee and Boston, and I think Milwaukee's going to come out of that.
Yeah, obviously Boston seems like they've been falling behind a little more. They started off the season hot, and Milwaukee won like 17, 18 straight recently. And like we've been saying this about the Bucks, or at least I was saying it to start the year. They're a well-oiled machine. They're like the Boston Celtics were after that '08 championship. They're just gonna kind of go through the motions of the season. You know what you're gonna get out of them, and there's just a team that's always gonna be there come playoff time, whether they win it or not, make it there or not. You know that this is a well-oiled machine that's just gonna run, and they'll always be there. So I think they have a chance every year for the foreseeable future. It seems like so. Having home court advantage should be big. It was big last year. They lost that game 7 in Boston, but they had that game 6 in Milwaukee that they blew. So home court advantage is going to be big here, and if they have it, I'll probably take them in that 7-game series.
And they got one of the best duels. Yeah, they got one of the best duels in the league over there. So,
are you talking about?
I was talking
Middleton?
about Boston. No, I was like,
Rich guy Middleton.
is he even playing? Is he
Yeah,
back
he's playing.
yet?
Yeah, he's back. He's here. I'm gonna cut him some slack because he's been through some injuries. He's getting his feet under him, so we gotta cut him some slack. He's not obviously the Middleton he was when they won the championship, but he's trying to get his feet under him.
They'll be hating on that trio over there, man. They got big rings over there. We got to get Mike back on the show with all this the Middleton hate coming back.
Drew Holiday was the All-Star this year, so I was gonna put that out.
Drew Holiday played a lot more games than Chris Middleton did too.
Debatable.
YP Meech, what up, Meech? H catching up with KD. I'm gonna say no. I think when you got a frame like that as a 7-footer, you are prone to injury. That was a freak accident that happened. Somebody might have gotten fired over that, but he comes back on the court and he still does what he does. He's the first player to come back from an Achilles injury and look better than he did before the Achilles. I'm never gonna doubt him.
I don't think obviously age is catching up with him, but he's one of those guys that he might be able to get buckets when he's like 45 if he really wanted to stay in the league. Just the way he plays is gonna be it's kind of hard to stop him regardless. So I think age is catching up with him. You can see his first step is probably not as quick. He's not dunking on people maybe as much. I really think he lost a little bit in his first step. And if you look at that Boston series last year, that's kind of how they were able to get him a little bit. He was turning the ball over a lot, kind of like handling in the top. But like KD's KD, man. He get that ball on the block, he's gonna get it. He get it off coming screens. He's gonna if he's gonna be able to make shots. I think just his ability to make shots and his length to be able to get over people, he's going to be able to still be himself. And he's just a smart basketball player, efficient basketball player. So I think age is catching up with him. But, man, just when one of the greats and one of the greats, they're going to be able to get buckets for as long as they want to.
Yeah, for sure, man. Before we get out of here, we'd be missed if we did not bring up the great Jim Boeheim.
This one hurts me the most. I want to let you guys know this right now. It
hurts both of us, man. It's not a secret that both of us are big Syracuse basketball fans. And Jim Boeheim has literally been the head coach of Syracuse longer than either you or me have been alive, longer than most people who watch this show have been alive. So, I mean, got some great memories with Coach. You know, the Final Fours, national championship. I was in like third grade, but that was still fun to see with Carmelo Anthony and those guys. And it just kind of puts things in a perspective of where we're at. You know, not everything stays the same. Not everything's going to be forever. And Jim Boeheim's, he's Syracuse. He lived and breathed Syracuse. He's the embodiment of Syracuse. You can't talk about Syracuse basketball without talking about Jim Boeheim. So I'm gonna miss seeing him coach. Looking forward to seeing things in the future, how things shake up. But this is definitely a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, definitely. And the writing seems like it's been on the wall for a little while, but uh, yeah, everything you said. Obviously, the only my favorite coach in college basketball, only coach I've known for Syracuse. Everyone knows how much of a dire Syracuse fan I am. So tough to see him go, man. We'll see what the future holds. Obviously, wish him the best in retirement. And man, just a tough one. You never. It's one of those things where you look and you be like, man, I'm getting old. You never thought you'd see the day where Coach K retires, Roy Williams retires, Jim Boeheim retires. So you're getting old, man. But obviously, all good things always must come to an end, man. I was fortunate, lucky enough to be in a few press conferences with him, ask him a few questions in my life. So shout out to him in his retirement, man. One of the greats.
Yeah, for sure. One last thing before we get out of here. Meech says, "Who's the MVP?" So I said earlier, man, I'm just not a believer in Denver. Most people are not a believer in Denver. I mean, look, we talk about Jokic is only going to go as far as, or Denver's only going to go as far as Jokic can take him. How many back-to-back MVPs do you know without a championship? If he wins a third MVP and the Denver Nuggets don't win a championship, don't give me none of this. He don't got nobody to play with. I seen Jamal Murray go back and forth in a playoff game against Donovan Mitchell, where they were both scoring 40 clips. He's got talent over there in Denver. Not only has he got talent, but he's got the coaching. So I'll just leave that there. Personally, I think Joel Embiid should be the league MVP. I thought he should have won it last year. I think that they got to correct the wrong, and he's got to win that thing this year. And I don't care about any of these metrics that y'all throw at me. I really think that they're empty stats at the end of the day. And I'm gonna just leave it at that. To me, Joel Embiid is the league MVP.
Honestly, you can really make a case that Embiid could have won one of the last two that Joker got. Like, there's a case for him to win at least one of those, whether it's the first year or last year or whatever the case is. So, I think I'm going with Embiid too. I think it's also one of those things. I'm gonna be honest, where it's the Jordan fatigue of just seeing the same guy win it every year, type of thing. And I'm really surprised that the voters haven't gotten to that at this point, because they got to that with Giannis, they got to it with Bron, they got to it with Jordan, and it doesn't seem like they're getting to that with Joker. So that's kind of interesting to me here.
We could dive into why maybe. I'm
Uh,
not gonna do that.
yeah, yeah. I didn't want to take it there, but uh, it's kind of. I'm gonna be honest. I'm on the voter fatigue type of thing, and like for the case that Joel Embiid could have maybe won one of those other ones. So I think it's time to give it to him. He's played enough games. It seems like this season, putting up big games. Obviously, Joker's close to averaging a triple double, but from what I've heard about Westbrook, that's not something that should matter at this point,
Right.
type of thing. So they're not gonna get me with that. So I'm gonna go Embiid. Well deserved.
I mean, the other reason why I got to go Embiid, last time I saw him go head to head, Embiid was cooking.
Right. I don't know if did they play. I don't think they play each other again the rest of this year.
No, but that last time in Philly, Embiid was on one.
We'll see. Let's see where Philly ends up. I think they have a good chance. Ooh, no, they probably got them 3. I think they're close for 2. If they get past Boston for the 2, I guess that puts them in play for 1, 2. Let's see where the seedings end up. 'Cause they're gonna bring that into play too.
If Philly somehow ends up on the opposite side of the bracket from Milwaukee, and like if Boston and Milwaukee have to play each other to go to the conference finals, Philly's a team that we've been talking about as contenders for years now. Even before Harden was over there, back when Simmons was still playing at an all-star level, and they had that team with, everybody, Butler, all of them, right? We've been talking about them being that team that needs to break through for years now. And Embiid, I agree with a lot of people that compare him to Hakeem. I think that he's completely deserving of that comparison. He moves a lot like him. Not many big men who can shoot from beyond the arc. He does that very well. Plays well in the post. Does everything you need him to do. If they're on the opposite side of those two, this might be the year that they finally get to the NBA Finals.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. Obviously, and you let those, because out of those three, two of them are going to have to verse each other in the semifinals. So you let those two knock each other out, and then you kind of meet up with the other one after coming out of probably a 7-round series, and you meet them in the conference finals. Then it's just, playoff is about matchups and kind of who you run into and things like that. That just seems like it bodes well for you. So I see what you're saying, and I could agree. I definitely think they get to the conference finals. I still don't think it necessarily means that they beat one of those two after the 7-game series, but I think it would be their best chance of getting there instead of trying to go through two tough 7-game series against other championship contender teams.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I feel that their recipe for success is just to avoid Boston. Boston's never been a favorable matchup for them, and yeah, if they can do that, especially if Boston and Milwaukee have to play each other, that's kind of a pick 'em type of thing too. But that those two teams are going to go at it. I feel good about their chances.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll see how it goes. Playoffs is coming up soon, so it's almost that time.
Yeah, we getting excited over here, man. We're gonna have to start getting into those picks pretty soon on out. Yeah, man. It feels good to be back. Looking to get back to y'all again next week. So definitely appreciate everybody tuning in, coming in with those questions. It's been a minute since we got some questions, so we appreciate the heck out of y'all. And Kay, anything else before we get out of here?
Nah, man. Like I always say, I appreciate everyone that's here, everyone that pulled up and left. Like you said, people that dropped the questions. So appreciate y'all, man. Appreciate you too, Rich, man. It's been we both been a little busy lately, so it's good to get back on here with you.
Yeah, no, 100%, man, 100%. Same goes for me on this end as well with you. But yeah, with everything being said, we'll definitely catch you guys on the next one. With that being said, again, it's Rich, it's Kayson. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.